The evening after the will reading felt heavier than any day Mira had lived through since her father died. She walked out of the lawyer's office with the letter clutched tightly in her hand. She hadn't opened it yet. She couldn't. The weight of it made her steps unsteady, as if she were carrying her father's final heartbeat. The wind outside pushed against her cheeks, cold and sharp, and the sky looked like it was trying to swallow the last light of day. She walked faster, not sure where she was going, only knowing she needed air, movement. Anything that would distract her from Helena's voice echoing inside her head. You were removed from the will. A lie, but one delivered with such cold confidence that it still stung. Mira wrapped her arms around herself as she walked down the street. Cars passed, people talked, the world moved. But everything felt distant to her, blurred. She reached a quiet bench near a small park and sat down, staring at the sealed letter. Her father's handwriting stared back at her, gentle and familiar. Her throat tightened. She wished he was still here, not to give her money or property, but just to tell her everything would be okay. She didn't open the letter. She couldn't, not yet. Her emotions were tangled, heavy. Instead, she took out the photograph Mr. Rowan had handed her. The man beside her father looked warm and kind, his smile genuine. A stranger, yet connected to her father in a way she didn't understand. On the back, the name Liam Hale was written with her father's steady hand. "Why did you want me to find him?" she murmured, but the photo gave no answers. The next morning, Mira woke early after a restless night. She kept the letter on her bedside table, staring at it through the dark hours when sleep refused to come. Every time she closed her eyes, she dreamed of her father calling her name. Every time she opened her eyes, she felt the emptiness next to her. By sunrise, she knew she couldn't avoid it anymore. She needed to know what was happening. She grabbed the letter, the photo, and the small silver key and headed out. She didn't have a plan. She just had a feeling, one that pushed her forward. Faster than fear could pull her back. She took a train to the small town listed on the back of the photograph. The ride was long, and the scenery moved too fast to focus on. She tried reading her father's letter several times, but each attempt ended with tears blurring the words. Eventually, she gave up and leaned against the window, letting the cold glass calm her racing thoughts. When the train finally stopped, she stepped into a quiet town where everything seemed slower. The houses were old, with gardens full of flowers. The sidewalks were clean, and people walked without rush. It felt like a place where time softened instead of rushed. She followed the address until she reached a small, simple house with pale blue walls. Her hands trembled as she knocked on the door. It's good. She didn't know what she expected. Fear, confusion, or maybe nothing. But when the door opened, the man from the photograph stood there. Liam Hale. He looked almost the same as the picture, just older, quieter, and with tiredness deep in his eyes. For a moment, he simply stared at her. Then his expression softened. "You're Mira," he said gently, as if he had been waiting a long time to say her name. "Yes," she whispered. "How do you know me?" Liam stepped outside and closed the door behind him, almost protectively. He crossed his arms and looked at her with sadness. "Your father talked about you often." Myra's chest tightened. "You knew him well." "I did," Liam replied. "Better than most people. Better than he let others believe." She looked at the photograph. "Why did he leave this with his will? Why did he want me to find you?" Liam sighed, glancing down the street as if checking for something. "Let's talk somewhere else. Not here." Mira followed him to a small cafe a few streets away. They sat in the far corner, away from everyone. Smell of coffee and pastries filled the air, but Mira barely noticed. Her mind was too full. Liam folded his hands on the table. "Your father saved my life once," he began. Mira blinked. "Saved you?" "Yes." His voice dropped slightly. "Years ago, I was in a terrible place. I had no one. Your father took me in when he didn't have to. He helped me get on my feet. Gave me work. He gave me guidance. Eventually, he became like a father to me." Mira stared at him. She never knew her own father had done something like that. He had always been kind, but he never talked about helping strangers. Why didn't he tell me? She asked quietly. Because he didn't want you to worry, Liam replied, and because he knew Helena wouldn't approve. The mention of her stepmother made Mira stiffen. Why wouldn't she approve? Liam hesitated. He took a slow breath. Because your father knew Helena wasn't as harmless as she pretended to be. Mira froze. What do you mean? Liam leaned closer. He was afraid of her. Those words almost knocked the breath out of her. Fear? Her father of Helena. Why? She whispered. Liam looked around again, cautious. I can't explain everything here. But your father was investigating something serious, something that involved Helena and people she worked with. Mira's hands tightened around her glass of water. What kind of things? Fraud Liam said quietly. Money movements, illegal transfers, deception. Your father discovered some of the documents by accident, and then he began looking deeper. When he realized what Helena was doing, he became scared. Myra felt her pulse racing. Scared of what? Of her hurting him? Not physically, Liam said, but emotionally, financially, and he was scared she would hurt you too. That's why he made the storage locker. He wanted the evidence safe somewhere Helena could never reach. He trusted only two people with the truth, himself and me. Mira stared at him, feeling the world tilt. He really thought she would hurt me. Yes, Liam said softly. He loved you more than you realized. And he wanted to protect you. A tear slipped down her cheek. She brushed it away quickly, embarrassed, but Liam noticed. Sighs. Softened, and for a moment Mira felt something unexpected. A quiet warmth from him. Something protective. Something steady. She forced herself to focus. And what does this storage locker have to do with you? Liam loosened his shoulders, revealing how tense he had been. Your father asked me to help you if anything ever happened to him. He made me promise that if he couldn't protect you himself, I would step in. Mira felt her throat tighten painfully. Why would he expect something to happen to him? Liam looked down. He felt Helena getting closer to discovering what he was doing. He didn't know how she would react. He was afraid she would take control of everything before he could stop her. Mira's heart ached. And she did, she whispered. She tried to cut me out of the will. Liam nodded. I'm not surprised. That was always her goal. Silence settled between them, thick and heavy. Mira felt like she had stepped into a story she never asked to be part of. Her father's secret fear, his hidden investigation, his hidden trust in a stranger, none of it made sense, but all of it felt real. After a moment, Liam spoke again. We need to go to the storage locker. That's where your father kept the evidence. That's where the answers are. Mira held the key tightly in her hand. Will it really explain everything? It will explain enough, Liam said. Maybe more than you're ready for. They left the cafe and walked to Liam's truck. The drive to the storage facility was quiet, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Mira kept stealing small glances at Liam. There was something calm about him, something trustworthy. His presence didn't scare her. It steadied her. When they arrived, the facility was almost empty. Rows of metal doors stretched in both directions. The number on her key matched a locker near the back. Her hands trembled as she approached it. The metal rough against her fingers as she inserted the key. Liam stood beside her, close enough to be reassuring without touching her. She turned the key. The door slid up with a low rattling sound. Inside, there was only one object, a large wooden chest. Mira's breath caught. He left this for me, for both of us, Liam said. Your father wanted us to open it together. Mira nodded. They lifted the chest onto the ground. The wood was worn, the edges scratched, as if her father had moved it many times. The lock was simple, and when she opened it, the lid creaked loudly. Inside were stacks of documents, old photographs, and several voice recordings labeled with dates. The papers were covered in her father's handwriting, notes, signatures, numbers, names. Every piece of paper was part of something much bigger. Myra picked up the first folder. It was filled with financial reports that didn't match any she had seen before. When she flipped through the pages, her eyes widened. Money had been moved secretly from her father's business to accounts under Helena's name. She was stealing from him, Mira whispered. Not just stealing, Liam said. She was planning something larger. Your father suspected she was using his company to launder money for someone else. Mira felt her blood turn cold. This is unbelievable. Liam handed her another document, one that made her heart stop. It showed her father's medical records. Altered before his last hospitalization. He didn't die naturally, did he? Mira asked, voice shaking. Liam didn't answer right away. Your father believed she was changing his medications. He told me he felt weaker every day, but doctors couldn't explain why. He didn't have proof. Only fear. Myra's knees weakened and she sat on the cold ground. Liam knelt beside her. I'm sorry, he whispered. Myra covered her face with her hands, shaking as tears fell. Everything she believed was turning into something dark and painful. But she wasn't alone. The morning felt heavier than usual when Myra stepped out of the taxi and stood in front of the lawyer's office. The sky was dull and gray, as if it understood the weight inside her chest. The air smelled like rain, cold and sharp, and she pulled her jacket tighter as she walked toward the building. Her father had been gone for only 2 weeks. But every step she took made it feel like she was losing him all over again. She paused at the glass door before entering. Her reflection stared back at her red eyes, tired face, hair tied without care. Everything about her looked broken. She hadn't slept much. She barely ate. And now she was here, about to listen to the reading of her father's will. Something she wished she could close her eyes and avoid forever. Inside, the lobby felt too clean, too quiet. The ticking clock on the wall sounded like it was counting down to something she didn't want to face. A receptionist glanced up with a practiced, polite smile. You must be Mira, the woman said gently. Mr. Rowan is waiting for you in the conference room. Myra nodded and followed the long hallway, her fingers brushing the wall to steady herself. She breathed slowly, trying to prepare, but nothing could prepare her for seeing Helena again. Even thinking about her made Myra's stomach twist. Her stepmother had always been like a stranger in her own home, elegant, distant, always acting as though Myra was an inconvenience she had to tolerate. Mira could never forget the cold looks, the fake hugs, the polite words that carried no warmth. But after her father passed, Helena felt different, sharper, impatient, as if she couldn't wait to move on from everything connected to him, including Mira. When Mira reached the conference room, she saw Helena sitting at the long table. She was dressed perfectly in a navy blue dress, hairstyled without a strand out of place. She didn't look sad. She looked prepared, almost eager. Myra's heart tightened painfully. How could someone look that composed when the man who had loved her was gone? Helena didn't stand or smile. She didn't even pretend to greet Mira. Instead, she tapped her nails on the table in a slow, steady rhythm. The sound felt like it was scraping the inside of Myra's skull. You're late, Lena said without looking up. Myra swallowed. It's 5 minutes, she replied quietly. 5 minutes is still late, Helena muttered. But I suppose we're used to that. Mira didn't respond. She didn't have the energy to argue. She sat down opposite her, feeling the weight of her stepmother's cold presence settle like ice in the room. Mr. Rowan. Her father's lawyer entered a moment later with a thick folder in his hands. He was a serious man with silver hair and soft eyes. Mira had met him only a few times, but he had always spoken kindly to her. Unlike Helena, he greeted them both and sat at the head of the table. I know this is difficult, he began, but I thank you for coming. David cared deeply about both of you. He wanted this to be handled with respect. Helena let out a quiet breath, as if she had heard something funny. Mira looked down at her hands, embarrassed for her father that he had ever trusted this woman. Mr. Rowan opened the folder slowly, flipping through pages. The room felt so quiet that Mira could hear each turn of paper. Her heart pounded harder with each second. She wasn't worried about money. She was worried about hearing the last words her father had prepared. She wanted something from him, something real, something that felt like love instead of loss. But before the lawyer could begin, Helena lifted her chin. "I should say something before we start," she announced. Interrupting him, Mr. Rowan looked at her, eyebrows raised. "Everything will be explained in the will, Helena. There's no need for. I think Mira deserves to hear this from me," Helena insisted, folding her hands on the table like she was delivering a speech. Mira felt her stomach clench. Nothing good ever came from Helena starting a sentence that way. "What is it?" Mira asked, her voice thin. Helena stared at her with cold satisfaction. "You will be removed from your father's will," she said calmly. "Completely. That was his decision before he died." The words sliced through the air like a blade. Mira's breath caught in her throat. "What?" Her voice cracked. "No. No, that's not true." Helena nodded smugly. "I'm afraid it is. David made it clear. He didn't want his estate divided." Mira shook her head, feeling something inside her collapse. My father would never do that." He cared for stability," Helena replied sharply. "He cared for responsibility. He cared for someone who actually stayed by his side, not someone who left every time things got difficult." The accusation hit Mira harder than she expected. "I didn't leave," she whispered. "I went to college. I visited. I called every day you were never there," Helena said, waving her hand dismissively. "And David noticed." Mira's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away stubbornly. She wouldn't cry, not in front of Helena. Not when everything inside her already felt so fragile, Mr. Rowan closed the folder. "Helena," he said firmly, "that is not what the will states." Helena turned sharply toward him. "What?" I said, he repeated, "that what you just said is not true. It is not reflected anywhere in your husband's documents." For the first time, Helena looked surprised, genuinely surprised. The confidence slipped from her face, replaced by confusion. "But he told me he never filed any changes," Mr. Rowan replied. "In fact, everything he left behind contradicts what you just claimed." Mira exhaled shakily, her heart racing. A small spark of hope lit inside her chest. She wasn't sure what her father had planned, but she knew one thing now. Helena had lied, and the lie had meaning. The lie had fear behind it. Mr. Rowan reached deeper into the folder and pulled out a smaller packet sealed with a red sticker. "This is a letter," he said, "written by David in his own hand. He wrote it 6 months before he passed. He gave specific instructions that it should be read at the official meeting." Alina's face hardened instantly. "What letter?" "David didn't tell me about a letter." "That is because he did not want anyone to know about it." The lawyer answered. Myra felt her pulse hammer in her ears. Why had her father kept a letter secret? Why give it only to the lawyer? Why hide it from Helena, his wife? Mr. Rowan placed the letter gently on the table. The handwriting on the envelope was unmistakable, her father's gentle curves. The way he always slanted the letter M slightly to the right. For a moment, Mira couldn't move. Her throat tightened painfully. Seeing his writing again was like hearing his voice through a door she couldn't open. Mr. Rowan continued. "Your father wrote something important. He wanted you to hear it today." Alina leaned forward aggressively. "This is ridiculous. David was weak in his final months. He didn't know what he was doing." Helena, the lawyer said sharply. "Enough." She glared at him, but he ignored her and slid the letter toward Myra. Myra stared at it, afraid to touch it, afraid of what she would feel when she did. Her father had been the only person who made her feel safe, and now all she had left was this envelope. Her hand trembled as she finally picked it up. The paper felt soft and worn, as though her father had held it many times. When she didn't open it right away, Mr. Rowan said softly, "There is also something else." Kalena's head snapped toward him. "Something else?" "Yes." The lawyer pulled out a photograph. It was old, slightly faded. "Your father included this with the will." Mira looked at the picture, confused. It showed her father standing beside a younger man she didn't recognize. They were smiling, arms around each other as if they shared a deep bond. On the back was a name written in her father's handwriting. Liam Hale. Myra whispered the name under her breath. The man in the photograph looked kind, maybe a few years older than her. She didn't understand why her father had taken a picture with him or why he wanted her to see it. Helena reached forward to grab the photo. But Mr. Rowan stopped her. "This is from Mira." Helena's expression darkened. Why? Why would David leave this? Who is this man? Mira felt a strange shiver run down her spine. She had no answers, but the photograph felt important, like a key to something she didn't yet understand. Mr. Rowan then took out a small silver key and placed it beside the letter. "This," he said, "belongs to a storage locker your father rented privately. No one else knew about it, not even Helena." Helena's face flushed with anger. "That is impossible. David told me everything." "No," the lawyer replied calmly. "He didn't." Mira stared at the key. Her father had hidden something. Something he didn't trust Helena with. Something he wanted Myra to discover herself. And he wanted this stranger, Liam Hale, to be part of it. "What's inside the locker?" Mira asked quietly. Mr. Rowan shook his head. "I don't know. David only said that the truth was inside. A truth that he believed would protect you." Helena's voice trembled with frustration. Protect her from what? But Mira already knew the answer. Her father had been afraid. Not of illness. Not of death, but of something or someone close to him. She lifted the key, feeling its cold metal against her skin, and for the first time since her father died, she felt a direction, a path, a purpose. Her father had left her questions, and somewhere out there, Liam Hale had the answers. The door of the storage locker rattled against its frame as Helena stepped inside. Her footsteps echoed across the concrete, slow and deliberate, as if she enjoyed every second of Myra's shock. Mira's breath caught in her throat. The air thickened with danger. Liam moved closer to her, blocking Helena's path. But she didn't seem threatened. Her eyes were cold, sharp, and full of a fury that felt older than the moment. "You should not be here," Helena said, her voice strangely calm. "David never wanted this." Mira stood slowly, her knees weak, but her heart stubborn. "He left the key for me. He wanted me to see this." Helena smiled a thin, cruel smile. He was confused at the end. "You know how sickness changes people?" Liam stepped forward, jaw tight. He wasn't confused. He trusted Mira. He trusted both of us. And he trusted no one else. Helena's eyes flicked toward him with quiet disdain. "You again? He should have cut you out years ago." "He never wanted to," Liam replied. "Because he knew what you were doing." A moment of stillness passed. The tension in the air grew sharper, like a wire pulled too tight. Helena folded her arms. "You think you know something? You think this little box of papers changes anything?" Her gaze darkened. "It doesn't. Everything David owned belongs to me. Every account, every memory, every part of his life. He was my husband, not yours." Mira felt anger rising under her skin. For years she had tried to be polite, patient, reasonable with Helena. But now she saw who her stepmother truly was, someone who had never loved her father. Someone who saw people as tools to control. "You didn't love him," Mira said quietly. "You loved what he had." The smile dropped from Helena's face. Her eyes hardened. "Be careful, Mira." "No," Mira said, her voice trembling but growing stronger. "You hurt him. You controlled him. You drained his accounts. And when he found out, you made him feel helpless." Helena's expression flickered for a moment. Something like fear, but it vanished quickly. "You don't know what you're talking about." "We do," Liam said. "Everything is in the chest. Every document. Every report. Every signature you forged." Helena's face went pale. "He kept those." She whispered to herself. Even after she stopped abruptly, and Mira knew instantly whatever Helena had done. She hadn't planned for her father to leave a trail behind. Myra stepped back from the chest protectively. You're not taking anything. Helena looked at her with a fury that seemed to fill the entire room. You think you can stop me? Liam stepped forward, voice steady. You will not touch her. Lena's eyes darted between the two of them. I should have dealt with you both sooner, she hissed softly. Suddenly, Mira understood. This wasn't anger anymore. This was panic born from losing control. Helena took a step forward, and the moment she did, Liam moved fast, grabbing Mira's hand. Run, he whispered. He didn't wait for her to respond. He pulled her toward the side exit of the storage facility. Mira stumbled behind him, her heart pounding so loud it drowned every thought. Behind them, Helena's footsteps echoed, growing louder. Stop. Helena shouted. You have no idea what you're doing. Liam didn't stop. He pulled Mira around a corner, pressing her against the wall for a moment to catch his breath. Mira felt his hands still wrapped around hers, warm and steady. It gave her enough courage to breathe. We need the chest, Mira whispered. We'll get it, Liam said, but not with her standing there. Footsteps approached quickly. Liam tugged Mira down another hallway of storage units. The lights above flickered, casting their shadows in strange angles on the concrete floor. Mira's thoughts tangled in fear and confusion. She had never imagined Helena would follow them here. Never imagined she would risk everything to keep her secrets buried. When they reached the end of the corridor, Liam paused, listening. Helena's steps were distant but closing in. He turned to Mira. There's something I need to tell you. Mira blinked. What? If anything happens, you run. Don't stop. Go straight to Mr. Rowan's office. He'll protect you. Nothing is going to happen, Mira said quickly. You're coming with me. Liam hesitated. I will, but I need to hold her off. No. Mira grabbed his arm. We stay together. My father trusted you, and I trust you. For a moment, something softened in Liam's eyes, something warm, almost tender. His face relaxed, and he seemed to forget the danger for a heartbeat. Mira, he said softly, I promised your father I would protect you, no matter what. And I'm not leaving you, she whispered. Footsteps approached again, faster this time. Liam's jaw tightened. We need to move. He pulled her toward the back door of the facility, but before they reached it, a shadow appeared in front of them, Helena. Her breathing was heavy, her hair messy. Her expression filled with frustration and desperation. You too, Helena whispered, shaking her head slowly. You don't understand anything. David was weak. He doubted me only because his mind was slipping. That's not true, Mira said, stepping forward. He wasn't losing his mind. He was scared. Helena laughed bitterly. Scared, David? He couldn't make a decision without me guiding him. He trusted me, Mira replied. Not you. Helena's face twisted with anger. She reached into her bag and pulled out something small, and metallic. Mira's stomach dropped when she realized what it was. A syringe. Liam stepped in front of Myra instantly. Put that down. Helena raised it higher. He didn't die of illness, she said softly. He died because he became a threat. And threats must be handled. The horror of her words crushed the air from Mira's lungs. You killed him. Helena's eyes filled with icy calm. I helped him rest. Liam moved his hands slowly behind him, urging Mira to take a step back. But Mira stood frozen. Every memory of her father flashed before her, his laugh, his hugs, the way he smiled at her. All of it felt like it had been stolen, ripped away by the woman standing in front of her. Liam took a steady breath. You're not touching her, he said. Helena lifted the syringe. Then step aside. But instead of stepping aside, Liam lunged forward, grabbing Helena's wrist. She struggled violently, the syringe slipping from her hand and falling to the concrete with a sharp clink. Helena screamed and shoved Liam backward. He stumbled, but didn't fall. He blocked Helena again, shielding Mira with his entire body. Run, Mira! He shouted. This time, Mira didn't listen. She ran straight toward the fallen syringe. Helena saw it too and lunged in the same direction. But Mira reached it first. She kicked it across the floor. Out of Helena's reach, it slid under a metal shelf and vanished into the shadows. Helena's eyes filled with fury. She turned toward Mira with boiling rage. You little before she could finish, Liam grabbed her from behind. She fought wildly, but Liam held firm, breathing hard. Go. He yelled again. This time, Mira obeyed. She ran toward the exit, Liam right behind her. Together, they burst into the cold afternoon light. They didn't stop running until they reached Liam's truck. Liam pushed Mira inside, then jumped into the driver's seat and locked the doors. Helena ran out of the building screaming their names, her voice cracking with frustration. Liam started the engine and sped away. For several long minutes, they said nothing. Both of them breathed heavily, bodies trembling from the adrenaline. Mira pressed her hand against her chest, trying to calm her racing heart. When they reached a long stretch of road far from the storage facility, Liam finally slowed down. He turned to Mira, concern all over his face. Are you hurt? Mira shook her head, though her eyes were full of tears. She killed him, she whispered. My father. She killed him. Liam reached out slowly and took her hand. I'm sorry, he said softly. He knew something was happening, but he couldn't prove it. Mira leaned forward, her forehead resting against Liam's shoulder as she cried. He wrapped an arm around her, holding her gently. For a moment, she let herself sink into the warmth of his embrace, feeling safety for the first time in weeks. When she pulled away, Liam brushed a tear from her cheek. His touch was gentle, careful. We're going to stop her, he said. Your father didn't collect that evidence for nothing. Mira nodded weakly. We need to take everything to Mr. Rowan, and we will. Liam placed his hand over hers. But before we do, you should read the letter. She looked at him, surprised. Now, it was his last message to you, Liam said softly. I think he wanted you to read it when the truth came out. They drove to a quiet lookout point where the town stretched below them like a soft painting. The air was cool. A gentle wind brushed against Mira's face as she stepped out of the truck. She held the letter tightly, feeling the weight of her father's love inside it. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The letter was short. Written in her father's warm handwriting, Mira. My heart, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. But I want you to know something more important than anything I ever gave you. You were my pride, my joy, my greatest love. I kept secrets to protect you, not to push you away. I am sorry for the years you felt alone. I am sorry I could not be stronger at the end, but I trust you more than anyone. That is why I asked Liam to help you. He is loyal. Here's good, and he will stand by you when I no longer can. Do not be afraid. You carry my courage inside you, and my love will walk beside you always. Dad Myra pressed the letter to her chest as tears streamed down her face. Her father's words wrapped around her heart like a warm embrace. When she looked at Liam, he was watching her quietly, his expression soft, full of warmth she didn't expect. He loved you, Liam said softly.